Monday morning. Well, actually, Monday afternoon, 12:15-ish here on Monday. Of course, we're all getting over the 6 playoff games in the NFL this weekend that were, for the most part, extremely exciting. Welcome to the Main Event Podcast. Of course, if you're watching live on Facebook or on Twitter, I greatly appreciate it. Come on board here and let's talk some sports. And then also be up on the podcast systems here in a little bit after we get done chatting about some exciting things going on in the world of sports. And yeah, what a weekend. I mean, I look forward to this weekend very much. There were some good matchups, some good games. It was fun. It was fun to watch. It was fun to see. But there's also some other sports going on besides the NFL, and of course, college football game. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Preview tonight's game of the national championship game, Alabama, Ohio State. We're going to, of course, review the 6 playoff games that happened this weekend. Look forward to this weekend. Of course, when we do the Wednesday night show, we talk a little bit more in depth about it on 1580 The Fanatic. So definitely tune in Wednesday night on 1580 The Fanatic as well. But one thing that's starting this week that I want to touch on, it's beginning of the season. It's exciting. Hockey, right? NHL starts this Wednesday night with a bunch of games right off the bat. And I mean, a lot of games right off the bat. I was going to, most leagues start and they have like one game, right? But I mean, Pittsburgh's playing Philly. Montreal's playing Toronto. Chicago's playing Tampa Bay. Vancouver's playing Edmonton. St. Louis is playing Colorado. That'll be a fun one. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 8:30 p.m. Phoenix time. St. Louis to Colorado. So good. I'll be off on NBCSN. I'll be off the radio on Wednesday night. Time to get home and watch the St. Louis Colorado game. What a juggernaut right off the bat, right? Vancouver, Edmonton would be a fun little game. 8 p.m. Phoenix time. Chicago, Tampa Bay. Not too excited about that. Chicago's rebuilding. But Tampa Bay, right? Stanley Cup champions coming out. 6 p.m. Eastern time. As the radio show goes on, I'll probably have that on in studio. Montreal, Toronto. Be a fantastic game there. And then Pittsburgh, Philly at 3:30 p.m. on Wednesday, January 13th. So, of course, the Coyotes' first game is Thursday night versus San Jose in Glendale. They're doing this back-to-back deal. Of course, San Jose's been training at the Ice Den here in Scottsdale since they can't play in their home arena right now due to those COVID restrictions, the same ones that the San Francisco 49ers had. And so they back-to-back. And then the Coyotes go on the road, face a couple games on the road against the Golden Knights. Then they come home against the Golden Knights for 2 games. We talked about this before for the expectations for the Coyotes. I don't know what they are, right? We're going to talk about, just how can there be expectations for the Coyotes in this division is pretty overwhelming. And I got predictions for the conferences coming up here. We'll touch on. But they added, of course, you have Colorado. They added St. Louis into this conference, into the Coyotes division. You always have the Golden Knights here. Of course, the Sharks, who are, can be good or bad as we go through that. Tough, and only top four teams go into the Stanley Cup playoffs. But some other hockey news really quick we need to get to. Corey Crawford wasn't re-signed by the Chicago Blackhawks. Signed a 2-year deal with the New Jersey Devils in the offseason here. Abruptly retired from the NHL last week. He won 260 games with Chicago. And he's 36-year-old. Won the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013 and 2015. But he hadn't practiced with New Jersey Devils training camp since January 1. And he was granted a leave of absence Friday. And Crawford said, quote, I have been fortunate to have had a long career playing professional hockey for a living. I wanted to continue my career, but believe I've given all I can to the game of hockey, and I've decided that it's time to retire. And he goes on to thank the organizations that he, of course, Chicago, of course, but then also the New Jersey Devils, who he just signed with, for the opportunity to play in it. And just shocking news, But hey, if your time's up and you don't think you can do it, and your heart's not into it, I agree. Get out. There's nothing worse than these guys trying to hang on if they don't love the sport anymore, and it's time to go. You need to move on. Absolutely. So that's shocking news, right? No, some people put across my desk is Corey Crawford, a Hall of Famer in hockey. And now they do different hockey differently for the Hall of Fame game on there. But I mean, 2 Stanley Cup champions, great goaltender. They won one of those playoff games strictly because of Corey Crawford being so well. I'm sorry, it's not Corey Crawford. Patrick Kane, who played with Crawford for 13 seasons, said, quote, he's an unbelievable player and obviously a big part of our championships here, a big part of the organization last 10 to 15 years. He's a great guy to be around. He always seems to be in a good mood, always competed in practice. He helped me get better just in practice. He had a good offseason last year, a good postseason last year. And, it's time to hold up. You cannot fault a guy for not thinking he can continue to play in the sport and holding it up. So, for instance, he missed 80 games during the previous 2 seasons because of concussions. Last season, he went 16, 20, and 3 with a 2.77 goals against average, a .917 save percentage, and he had 1 shutout in 40 games. He did have 39 starts last season. He did come in a relief on 1. And New Jersey was really looking forward to being on that team. They really wanted him there. Devils coach Lindy Ruff said, quote, my initial thoughts are disappointment. Corey's had an incredible career, conversations that I've had with him. I understand where he's at, and I think the fact that he's had a great career and he's come to this point, you deal with it and you move on. It's something you obviously was deep in his mind, unquote. So, wish Corey Crawford luck in his retirement and, fantastic goalkeeper in the league. And if you don't think so, I don't know what to tell you because he was fantastic. Hall of Famer, I don't know how hockey does all that, but he's definitely up there as one of the best, goaltenders in the league, especially over this last time frame. Absolutely. Other news that broke this morning, of course, affects the local team, here in Phoenix, the Coyotes. Forgot who the local team was there for a moment on there. So, I mean, they've had some issues lately with who's going to be on the team. GM issues that we all questioned when that happened with the new ownership. But they signed Shane Doan. He joins the club as Chief Hockey Development Officer. What? Exactly. Made up title to bring Shane Doan back into the organization. It says Doan will support the club's business and hockey operations departments and advise on major club decisions and initiatives. Like I said, just broke this morning. He'll report directly to Coyotes president and CEO Xavier Gutierrez and will serve as a strategic advisor to the owner, Alex Morello, and general manager Bill Armstrong. But he's going to be on the business side and the hockey side. One of the things that this organization was kind of priding themselves on is keeping the two sides separate. But one thing that's good is Shane Doan, for those of us that have been Coyotes fans forever, I mean, was in the organization when they're still in Winnipeg, when they were the Jets. Came out here, as a young 17, 18-year-old. Was captain of this team for 100 years, it feels like, right? And, you know, he did everything right. He played hard. He set the tone. Stayed with the team through the bad years. He's well respected here in the Valley in terms of sports fans, and one of the most respected players that I've ever seen. I mean, him and Larry Fitzgerald are two guys that can kind of do no wrong here in Phoenix, right? And it's just great that he's going to be involved in this organization. I mean, the way he was let go from the Coyotes was kind of disappointing as a player. And he went and worked in the corporate offices there of the NHL. But he's back with the team now, and I think it's a great move. It's a great ambassador move, regardless of what his role is. You know, of course, he was on the NHL's hockey operations department for the last couple years, I believe. So, of course, Doan retired following 21 seasons, 1,540 regular season NHL games, and they're all with the Coyotes, with the organization that is now known as the Coyotes, as we know. Department. They weren't called the Coyotes when they were in Winnipeg when he was youngin. He was a youngin. So other good news for the Coyotes, and I mean that's like I said, there's nothing wrong with bringing a person that is well respected in the community. He's 44 years old. As I said, he was drafted 7th overall by the Jets in the 1995 draft. He was captain in his final 13 season with the Coyotes. I didn't know this. He retired as the NHL's longest tenured captain. Holds a bunch of records with the Coyotes. Team's all-time leader in games played, goals, assists, points, power play goals, and game-winning goals. So, there you go, Shane Doan. Woohoo! Just checking the sound there is what I was dealing with. Coyotes did sign center Frederick Gauthier to a 1-year contract. You know, I don't know what to expect from this Coyotes team this year. Tough conference, as we've talked about, our tough division. But, you know, one thing that we do here is we do make predictions, right, as we go through. Stanley Cup, you know, I don't get into playoff predictions because a lot of teams make it and everything, but Avalanche are going to be a good team. Golden Knights are going to be still a good team. They're both in the Coyotes division. Two of the best teams in the NHL are in the Coyotes division. Then you can add, like I said, you can add St. Louis, who's going to be good again this year. 3 of them. 3 of the spots are you can pretty much write those 3 spots into the playoffs right off the bat. So who's going to be the 4th team in the Western Division to make it to the playoffs? I think San Jose is going to be vying for that 4th spot. I think Minnesota Wild are going to be vying for that spot. I don't know. I've read some stuff saying the Ducks can make it to that spot. I'm not sure on them yet. See how their season goes. You know, can the Coyotes surprise everybody and make it to that 4th playoff spot? I will tell you that when I was researching expectations this year, I did see the Coyotes' name come up 4 or 5 times as a team to be in that 4th spot. Can they do it? I don't know. I think the Minnesota Wild are going to be the 4th team in this division. They're just a team set up to go. If it's not the Wild, I think San Jose is going to be the other one. The problem I have with San Jose, though, is we don't even know where San Jose is going to be playing their home games. Going to be here in Glendale. A lot of upheaval for them. You know, as we know this year, this season featured 4 realigned divisions. Of course, they added sponsors to the divisions. I won't refer to the sponsors on that. They're not paying me. I don't care. I think definitely the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be a strong team in the East. They're probably a favorite to win it again, to be honest with you. Even though they did lose, you know, a good player earlier in the offseason here for the season. I think the Flyers are going to be good this year in Philadelphia. And as I said, the Knights and the Avalanche are going to be really good. And the reason why I think those are the best teams is because most of them have really good goaltenders, right? Golden Knights have Robin Lerner. He's kind of taken over there. Flyers have Corey Hart. Things to watch for in the division there. So in the North Division, which of course is the Canadian division, I think the Maple Leafs are the team to beat in that division. You have the Edmonton Oilers, the Calgary Flames, and the Vancouver Canucks are going to be the winners of the 4 winners of that division, for me at least, going into this division this year. The East Division, of course, with all the Eastern teams, believe it or not. Like I said, Philadelphia Flyers is a team that's going to be up there. I got Boston being up there in number 2 spot, probably. I think the Islanders are going to make the playoffs again this year. And the Capitals are going to be back. I think the Capitals are going to be a little bit better than the Rangers this year. And that's why the Capitals will make it into the playoffs, with the Rangers just outside looking in. You got the Central Division. Tampa Bay Lightning's the cream of the crop in this division. Don't think there's any doubt about that. I think the Dallas Stars, although they made it to the finals last year, they do have some issues. That team just gelled at the right time, but they still make the playoffs again. Carolina Hurricanes are going to make the playoffs in this division. I'm going to go Tampa Bay Lightning 1, Carolina Hurricanes 2, Dallas Stars 3, and I've got the Florida Panthers edging out the Nashville Predators to make it in the 4th spot for this division. The West Division, we've already kind of talked about, right? Colorado Avalanche, Las Vegas Knights, St. Louis Blues, those 2 are written in. Minnesota Wild's my 4th one there. So my predictions for the 4 divisions of the NHL for this year. Let's see how it goes. Of course, I don't really break down. If I had to guess a favorite for the Stanley Cup right now, it's going to be Tampa Bay and probably Colorado. I think Vegas is going to be right there as well. I think those 2 are going to be favorites to make it to the finals. We'll see how that goes, right, as we go through it. But yeah, NHL hockey starting up this week. Exciting times for that, no doubt. Of course, I'll get my predictions out as we look forward to an exciting hockey season as we get going. Excuse me. NBA news, lots and lots and lots of NBA news. I don't even know. So just pare it down here. We don't talk too much NBA. Regular season of the NBA is kind of, for me. It's just they don't play hard. A lot of guys sit. Kind of look forward to the, But bad news coming out for the NBA this week. After more cancellations, NBA and NBPA are meeting to revise the COVID protocols because we've had several games get canceled, especially, I know the beginning of the season, the Rockets missed a couple games due to COVID concerns. But now the New Orleans Pelicans, Dallas Mavericks game, Boston Celtics, Chicago Bulls games are postponed due to COVID-19 protocols. So 2 more games have been canceled. They had to cancel these 2 games after Miami's game in Boston was called off because of contact tracing issues with the Heat. This was a game where they're going to play it because the Celtics would only have 8 available players after 7 were ruled out due to the ruled out issues. So 4 games have been totally canceled or postponed, this season by the NBA. And it'll have 3 straight days of postponements. For instance, and there's probably going to be more. The Heat are scheduled to play in Philadelphia on Tuesday. But as of this afternoon, Monday afternoon, they remained in Boston at their hotel, unsure of what they're going to do next. The 76ers played on Saturday with only 8 players available. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Dallas did not have the minimum of 8 players cleared to play on Monday. So they had to cancel it. So the league has now said it will meet today with the National Basketball Players Association about modifying, let me read the quote, modifying the league's health and safety protocols, unquote. The league has also scheduled a special board of governors meeting for Tuesday. Not good news, right? What's the NBA going to do here? Topics to be discussed during the meeting today with the NBPA are potentially re-examining shoot-arounds and practice lengths, pregame and postgame socializing on court, further restrictions on restaurant dining, and tighter rules on mask wearing. They're already having the players. They changed it to where the players have to wear masks on the bench now, things like that. So you're going to see tougher rules now as COVID is hitting the NBA and causing cancellations for the season. We're going to have more cancellations as the season goes on. But as I said, they're going to try to tighten down the rules a little bit and see if they can get this under control as they go. They're meeting today. So we'll see more stuff come out. The Phoenix Suns, of course, we talk about on the radio show, especially 7-3 to start the season. Doing a great job to start the season, no less, right? I mean, we all thought Phoenix Suns were going to be a lot better this year en route to the 40 wins and things like that. But I mean, the Lakers are 8-3 on the year in first place, second place in the Western Conference, 7-3 of the Phoenix Suns. Clippers 7-4. Then the Utah Jazz 6-4. Golden State 6-4. Golden State's starting to play well again. Mavericks are 5-4. Portland's 5-4. Oklahoma's 5-4. And then you get down into the 5-5s and under 500 teams as you go through it. I said it was too early in the year to, I said, let's get to 10 games and see how this Phoenix Suns team is for real, guys. There's no reason not to be on this bandwagon right now. Absolutely no reason not to jump on it. This team is winning in ways they've never won before, and it's fantastic to watch, and it's exciting to watch. So much so, I mean, we talked about it on the radio show the other night. We don't really do power polls, power rankings at all. Because, it's just a snapshot of time, just people's opinions. But one reason why I started paying attention to the power polls for the Phoenix Suns is simply because it kind of tells you what the national media thinks about the Phoenix Suns. In years past, they didn't think too highly of them. They weren't ever in the top 10. They were always right in the middle of the ranked. So this 7-3 start for the Suns is exciting. I think last week on the radio show, I think they were 4th when we went over that. Comes out this week, right? Lakers are still number 1. Last week they were number 1. Yeah, last week the Phoenix Suns were 4th place. They're 2nd now. The national media is taking notice of the way the Suns are winning. But then check out these stats on top of it. Mikal Bridges had 34 points in Indiana on Saturday. And they were a career high for him. And he leads the league this year with 14 corner threes. He's hitting the threes from the corners like crazy. But they're a season high for the Suns. The Suns are winning with Devin Booker. He's yet to score more than 26 points. In years past, if Devin Booker scored less than 26 points, the Suns weren't winning. They needed him to put up a lot of points. Heck, even when he scored 50 points, they weren't winning those games. The Suns have a top 10 offense. 7 guys are averaging double figures. 7. You start 5. Bench is playing outrageously well for the Suns right now and is getting them into some of these wins. The bench is the most impressive part of this Suns team right now. They have put a good bench together and guys that can score, and there's no letdown or very little letdown when the bench goes in the game. Against the Pacers on Indiana on Saturday, the Suns had 33 assists and just 3 turnovers. By the way, that Pacers defense ranked 2nd in opponent turnover rate through Friday before they played the Suns. And the Suns, 3 turnovers only. That assist to turnover ratio of 33 assists to 3 turnovers is a ratio of 11. It's the highest mark for any team in a game in the last 15 seasons. Right? Of course, the Suns did lose to the Detroit Pistons a couple nights before their win over Indiana. And they struggled with the Pistons zone in the last second half of that game on Friday. The Suns blew a 23-point lead, lost to a team that was 1-7 at the time. But I mean, you're gonna have games like that. You can't win them all, right? But here's the thing to look forward to positively: the Suns are the only team that hasn't lost a game that wasn't within 5 in the last 5. All 3 of the Suns' losses were within 3 points in the last minute of the fourth quarter. The Suns are in these games. Remember the Clippers game where they were down 30 in the first half? They come back and they win these. They come back. Even when they lose, they're in these games at the end. So, of course, they finish up with Washington tonight, as I said. Then the Suns will play 14 of their next 19 at home. They come back home and they got Atlanta, a big Golden State Warriors matchup, and then Indiana's coming into town. But like I said, the power rankings are pretty exciting because it means the national audience is paying attention to the Suns, and they also think that they're the real deal. Because as I said in the past, a lot of people ignored the Suns, what they were doing out there. Other quick NBA news, Kawhi Leonard on Sunday, I think it was, scored a season-high 35 points. He's starting to find his groove there. Utah has been struggling this year. We've talked about that. But they are, what did I say, 4th in the Western Conference. Now they're waking up. But their scoring is streaky. Donovan Mitchell, for instance, they beat Detroit yesterday. He scored 13 of his 28 points in the first quarter. So good start for him, and then he kind of goes down. Brooklyn is struggling now. Of course, Kyrie Irving's been out. Just doesn't feel like playing right now. Kevin Durant scores 36 points. Shea Alexander scores 31 points. Oklahoma City beat Brooklyn again, 129-116. The Lakers beat Houston 120-102. Lakers have won 6 of their last 7. Anthony Davis is still on a scoring hype there. Absolutely. So, just some quick NBA talk there. It's exciting what the Suns are doing. We've been on this thing for a long time with the Suns, and it's great to see them playing as well as they are and getting the recognition that they deserve from people in the national media. Of course, now let's get into some football. You have the national title game for college football coming up. But first, I need to take a quick break, so I'll be back in 2 minutes.
About to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live. Get ready for the main event podcast. The guys are about to go live.
Okay, and we're back here. Sorry about that. Had to take care of a couple things, but during the podcast, I needed to load some stuff up. That was taking longer than I was hoping for. So, yay team, right? But let's get into it, right? College football. Big championship game tonight. For those of you that don't know, have been living under a shell. You got an Alabama and Ohio State tonight. Of course, I think most people are shocked that I'm responding to my technical problem there when the music didn't play the whole way through there during that break. Good thing I wasn't yelling or something at somebody, right? So you guys can hear it. That'd be funny. But, of course, everybody was kind of shocked Ohio State beat Clemson. I know I was. The way they beat Clemson on top of it. I went through it. But the championship game is tonight, Monday night. And, I'll just say this on our pick'em that me and All Access crew member Mikkel, we both have Alabama winning tonight. I think Alabama, no matter who played Alabama, I said going into the tournament, full disclosure, that didn't matter who else the other 3 and 4 teams were because Alabama and Clemson were going to be in the title game. Ohio State kind of ruined that by playing so well. But I still think Alabama's the cream of the crop. Going into this, I didn't think anybody was going to beat Alabama. I would have picked Alabama if they were playing Clemson, regardless of what happened in the other game, right? So, got the playoff tonight. A lot of interesting factors in this because Ohio State beating Clemson like they did actually throws a couple wrinkles into this game. Look, I'm still picking Alabama in this game tonight. Of course, these two teams last met in the inaugural college football playoff in 2015. That's when Urban Meyer, quarterback Cardell Jones, the Buckeyes won the All-State Sugar Bowl semifinal back then, 42-35. And, of course, that's the year that Ohio State won the national championship. Since then, though, Nick Saban and Alabama have won 2 national championships and played in 2 other title games. This is the first trip for the team led by Ryan Day, of course. New experience for them. So, going into this game. So the question is, right, is this a big opportunity for Ryan Day? Let's see what he has to say.
To be here. Honor to be in the national championship game, and there's so many people, that you have to thank for putting all this together. Certainly, all the people here in Miami and with the CFP, our guys are elated to be part of this, and again, great challenge here. Coach Saban and his staff do an unbelievable job. Goes without saying. One of the best football coaches in the history of college football, and then. They're players, really, really good players. Again, goes without saying.
So, as I said, it's the first game, obviously, for the players. They haven't been in it in a while, but also for Ryan Day in this type of environment. So, will the moment be too big for Ohio State?
Understand what's at stake. And at the end of the day, it comes down to executing your job and doing your job and being accountable to the guy next to you. I mean, that's what it is, and you could make it bigger. Bigger than it is, but at the end of the day, you got to do your job, and it's about the execution and preparation. And the more you prepare, the more confident you can be on game day. And so that's really what it comes down to. And there certainly is going to be excitement and all those things with a big game, but once the foot hits the ball, I mean, it's another game, and it comes down to doing your job. And so that's really all you do is just you continue to spend as much time as you can preparing for the game so you can play faster on Monday night.
He's absolutely right in the vital sense, but it's not just any other game. As you saw with the NFL playoffs yesterday and things like that, teams like last night, Pittsburgh and Cleveland, we talk about that first play where Browns go and score a touchdown right off the bat, change the game for that team. So that stuff does happen as we go, right? And not a shocker here at all, right? Why you ask Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State, what they are there to do?
No one ever talks about getting to the national championship. They talk about winning the national championship. Along the way, there are certain goals that you have to reach to get to this point. But the ultimate goal is to win this game. So, when you have your goals of, beating your rival, of winning the conference, of, winning the semifinal, and then finally this game, you have to check off those boxes. But ultimately, this is the final goal, and that's what all the focus is on right now.
Yeah, shocker that he's going to say that, right? Because you go through it. One big thing that Alabama has to do is they have to stop, of course, Sermon, the running back for Ohio State. He's been dominating these last two games, had 197 yards against Clemson last week. So what's Nick Saban, is it going to be easy to stop him?
Trey Sermon is a really, really good player. Ohio State has a really good offensive scheme. The balance that they create, run and pass with the weapons that they have, which is, outstanding receiver core, really good tight ends, good offensive line, quarterback who has played extremely well. So Trey has taken advantage of all those circumstances and situations and played extremely well. Especially, against Clemson last week, he had a phenomenal game, and I think he's an outstanding player and certainly going to be a challenge for us to, try to at least, do a decent job of not letting them, be able to run the ball.
They have their work cut out for him. The kid has been on fire, and what it did against Clemson is his running game allowed Justin Fields and the offense to explode to where Justin Fields was able to choose to run or throw the football, find open receivers because of that running game. Alabama is going to have to figure out how to stop one of those two things happening tonight in order to win this game. No doubt about it. So, Justin Fields has struggled in big-time environments. No doubt about it until that Clemson game. And he was spectacular in that Clemson game, the All-State Sugar Bowl back in January 1st. He was 22 for 28, 385 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also ran for 42 yards. And don't forget, we don't know how healthy Justin Fields is either going into this game with those ribs after that shot that he took. But Justin Fields struggled against, two teams. Indiana confused him. Northwestern confused him in the Big Ten title game. Right? The thing is, though, Clemson didn't rattle him at all. So which Justin Fields are we going to see going into this game here tonight? So, Alabama's defense is, I think, levels above what he's faced before. Here's the problem, though. Alabama has had issues with quarterbacks that can run. So if Fields can get out there and run, we don't know his health situation. So if Fields can run the football and at least threaten to run the football to where you think that he's going to, Ohio State can keep Alabama second-guessing, keep them in hesitation a little bit more. You got to convert these third down opportunities, and that's where that running play is going to come in, right? If Fields can play like he did against Clemson, this is going to be a closer ball game than that even me or anybody else would give it credit for. This could be kind of what we saw when Deshaun Watson played Alabama when he was with Clemson. And what was that, 2017, I think? How many years has it been? Yeah, it's 17. Keep that in mind watching this game tonight, right? The other thing is both of these teams can score a lot of points. Both of them can score a lot of points. They can score them really quick. Ohio State isn't going to win if they are going to get in a track meet and a scoring run up against Alabama. And Ohio State needs to keep this game low scoring and close in order to win this football game. They're both over averaging more than 43 points per game. I mean, they can put up points. Steve Sarkisian, of course, is going to be the new coach of Texas, but he's coaching this game before he leaves. It's not going to be a situation like at Clemson where they were without their play caller. Steve Sarkisian is going to be there. Of course, Alabama has the Heisman Trophy winner as a wide receiver. They have some good receiving cores there. So Ohio State going to be able to keep him? Is Steve Sarkisian, like I said, the newest head coach of Texas, going to be distracted? By now that he's the head coach of Texas. So has he been distracted in his prep time? The front seven of Ohio State was really good against Clemson. Can they keep that up against Alabama with Najee Harris, of course, running the football? They're going to have to be. This Ohio State's front, if they play the way they did against Clemson, might be the best defensive front that Ohio State's going to face. If they don't play to that level, it won't be. It'll be a rout. It's just, you want to minimize Alabama, keep the ball out of Alabama's hands. That's why I think Sermon's running game for Ohio State is what is important. And Justin Fields getting some third down runs to keep the plays going. If you keep the ball out of Alabama's hands, Ohio State's got a chance to be in this ball game. So, it's got to be tight in the fourth quarter, and Ohio State's got to control the time of clock tonight. Ohio State's secondary, it's kind of their weakest link on that defensive side. Like I said, their front seven played really well against Clemson. They got to repeat that. But that secondary needs to step up to another level. So the key is that front seven, keeping the pressure off of that secondary for Ohio State. Don't forget Devontae Smith. Can not only catch the ball, but he can run yards after catch. It's huge for him. Devontae Smith, of course, just won the Heisman Trophy. He has 20 touchdown catches. And don't forget they have Jalen Waddle on the other side as well. Waddle has been practicing this past week after fracturing his ankle in October. He'll be a game-time decision. They could be adding another guy that could be a distraction for those cornerbacks. So Devontae Smith, I think, is a key for this defense of Ohio State. They got to keep him from catching the ball and making big plays to keep the game close. But he's caught 2 or more touchdown passes in 6 of his last 7 games. Of course, he has. For instance, let me give you an example. Lane Kiffin, the head coach of Ole Miss, they piled up 647 total yards on Alabama this season. They did it using an up-tempo offense that kept Alabama's defense confused, off-kilter. But Ohio State can't operate at that level that they ran that time. I mean, that's a lot of yardage as they went through. Obviously, wasn't enough. Ole Miss still lost that game to Alabama. The one thing that Ohio State's defense did do against Clemson is they hit their formations. And then, right before the snap, they switch into something else. And, Clemson wasn't ready for it and got gashed by some plays because they weren't ready for that change. Here's the other thing is Ohio State must score when they get the football on the offensive side. Alabama can score at will whenever they want to. And you're not going to win this game. You could be down 14-0 before you even know the game started if you're not careful. And that's what Ohio State needs to do. Needs to keep score when they get the ball and take long drives. That's what I think they need to do. I'm excited for this game tonight. I don't think it's going to be entirely too close, but I'll tell you I'm excited for it. Just because the only reason I'm excited about it is Ohio State looked good against Clemson and surprised Clemson with a lot of stuff. Nice little ad there. Somebody unzipping a bag. So I'm excited about it just because of the way Ohio State played against Clemson. Can they repeat that against a better team in Alabama? Of course, the game is going to be played at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. So both these teams dominated their games, of course, as we know. Ohio State only played now 7 games. And like I said, Trey Sermon's rushed for 636 yards, 4 touchdowns over the last 3 games. He's been dominant. We don't know, as I said, we don't know Justin Fields' availability in terms of he's going to play, but how healthy is he with those ribs? The Buckeyes were dealing with COVID-19 issues. That, of course, some people were talking about delaying the game because of it. Mac Jones, here's the thing. Alabama has not played a close game in a while, in a long time. If Ohio State can keep this game close going into the fourth quarter, they have a shot. Will Alabama blink? Will they be able to handle that? I'm interested in seeing how Alabama's defense and Nick Saban stop Justin Fields. Are they able to stop Justin Fields? I think that's the key for Alabama's defense is to stop Justin Fields, and then the game will come to you. I was doing some research on just professional picks. As I said, my pick is Alabama's going to win this game. But I was reading a bunch of details and following up on expert picks, quote unquote expert picks, right? I saw Ohio State being picked a lot in this game. Some people said Ohio State's going to win it because they're going to win the line of scrimmage. I just don't. Just with all the COVID issues, the health of Justin Fields we don't know about, he's still hurt. Anybody that's had a rib issue, regardless of what it is, you can shoot it up, but it's going to affect you. Alabama's just above everybody else in the college football ranks. I think this game is going to be closer than I want to give it credit to, just because if you don't stop Justin Fields, he's going to be able to score points. But not only that, but if Alabama does get a sizable lead, say 14 points, maybe 21 points, Ohio State can score quickly. So this game can become close again in the third and fourth quarter if they're down pretty big already. I mean, Alabama's offense is led by 3 players who finished in the top 5 of Heisman Trophy voting. Right? Najee Harris and Mac Jones, of course, being the other 2 guys. Like I said, if Jalen Waddle comes back from his broken ankle, that's another threat. And if he's healthy, but game time decision tells me he won't be 100%, but you're still going to have to game plan for him. The spread is roughly, I think the spread right now is 8 points. Alabama favored by 8. I think it's a high scoring game, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I'm going to go with a 38-27 victory in this game for Alabama. And I think it'll be comfortable, but I think Ohio State will come back in the third and fourth quarter and make it closer of a game going into it. Absolutely. And as I said, in the pick'em that I have going on with All Access crew member Mikkel, we both have Alabama winning this game tonight. I'm excited to see it. And like I said, if this was a matchup and Ohio State didn't play the way they did against Clemson, I wouldn't even give Ohio State a chance. But they have a chance because of the way they played against Clemson. They played that good, they'll be in this game. They play anything underneath that level, they won't be. Alabama's just going to dominate them. You can't have it. So, breaking NFL news right now. By the way, huge breaking. We'll get to that in just a minute here. Ohio State, Alabama game tonight, 6 p.m. The spread is now Alabama -9, according to ESPN. I did see 8 on a few betting sites still. Of course, Ohio State is third in the country ranking, 7-0. Alabama's 12-0. And 6 p.m. Game will be over by 9:30, 10. And we will have a national championship in college football, which will be fun. We can put this weird season of football behind us, and we can move on. But in NFL news, breaking right now, right this second, Doug Peterson, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, is head coach no more. On the radio show last when we talked about coaches being fired, I said it earlier in the season. I thought he was gone. I thought there was a disconnect there. The ownership wasn't happy with the way the team's going. They weren't happy with how many coaches he had, who he was listening to. They weren't happy with Carson Wentz's decrease in performance at all. So several weeks ago, I said Doug Peterson's gone. Then they put Jalen Hurts in, and Jalen Hurts started winning. The team got a pep to their step. The team started playing a lot better. And I said, oh, well, that's what's going to save Doug Peterson. So when we had our coach is going to be fired show a couple weeks ago, I said Doug Peterson's safe, and Carson Wentz is going to be the one to go. This tells me that the ownership is siding with Carson Wentz. Of course, Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl with the Eagles. First one to ever win the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. But multiple meetings with owner Jeffrey Lurie over the past week left his boss unconvinced that Peterson had a sound vision for how to address the myriad of issues facing the team, navigating the Carson Wentz situation to fixing an offense that finished 26th in scoring and 28th in passing yards. Doug Peterson's taking the blame for this team, Carson Wentz downfall, and the way the team played this year with high expectations. And I think rightfully so. Head coaches generally need to take that blame. Make no mistake about it. For teams hiring head coaches right now, they should all be interviewing Doug Peterson. He is a good coach. Of course, Carson Wentz has come out as planned to ask for a trade because his relationship with Peterson was fractured beyond repair. I think that's the ultimate undoing. I tweeted out earlier today, actually, from a tweet saying that This is going to come down to who the team thinks is the reason for the issues. If Wentz was gone, it's because they thought Wentz was the problem and he wasn't very good anymore. If Peterson goes, it's because they didn't like the way he set it up and the way Carson Wentz was playing with his system. I think we have our answer now. I mean, it doesn't help Doug Peterson that he pulled Jalen Hurts in that final game and put in Nate Sudfeld in a 20-14 loss to Washington. Doesn't help his case by any stretch. So breaking news, Doug Peterson out for the Eagles. Woo. Huge news. He's going to get snatched up. He's going to, if he wants a job this offseason, he's going to get in there. Good for, I don't know who this is good for. This is good for teams hiring coaches. Let's put it that way. Right? The Jets should be on the phone to Doug Peterson right now. And I'm putting it out on the Main Event pod right now as well. That you know, I'm looking to just see if there's any updated stuff or, you know, any teams contacting him right now. I know this is all just happening. I don't know. I get the head coach taking the brunt of what happened in Philadelphia this year. But also, man, Carson Wentz was awful. He wasn't awful because of Doug Peterson. Or any stretch of the imagination. There's a whole combination of stuff, which I think the head coach needs to take the blame for it as we go through that, right? Other news in coaching with that breaking news today. Cowboys defensive coordinator Mike Nolan was fired after one season. Also, their defensive line coach, Jim Tonsula, was let go also by the Cowboys end of last week. I love how that's the commercial that always plays on these articles. This was on Friday, I believe. You know, he's the scapegoat, right, for how bad the Cowboys played. They couldn't keep anybody out of the end zone, but then their offense was atrocious also. The offense had more talent on it and had more expectations, but maybe Dak going down kind of saved the offensive guys a little bit. So you're seeing a lot of changes happening in the NFC East for a division that underperformed this year. Of course, now they need to replace the defensive coordinator. And ex-Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn, several hours on Zoom with the Cowboys, and now he's flown into Dallas to discuss it. He's apparently the top candidate for the Cowboys to fill that DC role in Mike McCarthy's staff. Look, if here's the situation this year. If they're flying somebody in, that's the guy they want, and that's the guy they're going to try to sign. Otherwise, you would just do it all on Zoom and move on with your life. Of course, Quinn was fired by the Atlanta Falcons 5 games into this year's season, 0-5. He did make it to the Super Bowl with the Falcons, as we all know, ceremoniously allowed the New England Patriots to come back and beat them. He was only 43-42 in Atlanta. Of course, Quinn was defensive coordinator in Seattle before he went to Atlanta with good success in Seattle. That was the Legion of Broom. When he was in his 2 years as defensive coordinator in Seattle, Quinn's defense ranked number 1 in yards and points allowed both seasons. But like I talked about before, when I talk about coaches and why you get fired, is if you're a defensive coach, your defense better be good, i.e. Mike Zimmer in Minnesota. You don't come out and say your defense is the worst thing ever when that's your specialty. Make sure the offense sucks when you're a defensive coach. And if you're an offensive coach, make sure the defense sucks, but your offense is good. But Quinn's defenses in Atlanta struggled mightily when he was there. And then, here's the worst part. Dan Quinn gets let go of duties, right? 0-5 season. And the Falcons got better on defense after Raheem Morris took over as a head coach, on an interim base, than Dan Quinn. It's not a good sign. But I think it's definitely an upgrade in Dallas. I think that's a solid pickup if they get him. Which, like I said, they're probably going to get him because you don't fly a guy in this environment and, to get that route. So this weekend, fantastic football games for the most part. Saturday, of course. We got to wake up. First game, 11 a.m. our time. I love how that's the commercial that always plays. Why does that have to start with a zipper sound? It's ridiculous. Then we got to watch Seattle, L.A. Rams. Division rivals for the Cardinals play each other. And then you had Washington and Tampa Bay in the nightcap. I enjoyed these games thoroughly. Of course, the Buffalo Bills held on to beat the Colts 27-24. What a game. What's up with referees, by the way? We could talk about referees all day long on this Saturday's game. They just made some boneheaded calls. Made no sense. Of course, the Bills won their first playoff game since 1995. Josh Allen was a stud. That Colts defense is really good, and he was putting the ball right where it needed to be in the tight windows. He had 324 passing yards, 26 of 35 attempts, 2 touchdowns. One thing I liked about Josh Allen was he was able to not throw the hard ball. There was an easier throw, and he was able to check it down and make an easier throw, which kept drives alive. And then when he could, he would go and make a big play. For instance, perfect stat for that. Allen went 5 of 6 with a touchdown on passes beyond 20 plus air yards. So when he went deep, and he connected it. Josh Allen is turning into a superstar quarterback, at least this year. Of course, late in the game there, he fumbled. Bills are trying to milk the clock, but Buffalo recovered it, was able to hang on to it. The difference in the Bills this year, I firmly agree with this, is Stephon Diggs. Minnesota gave up on him, shipped him off to a trade to the Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs is the key to Buffalo's offense right now and why they're clicking on all cylinders. Of course, Stephon Diggs is the league's top receiver, and you just couldn't stop him. He finished with 6 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. The end of the half play, when the Colts drove down the field, leading 10-7, inside the 4-yard line. Couldn't get it in the first 3, so 4th down comes along. And Rivers didn't make the right throw, didn't throw the ball correctly. They didn't score on that. You have to score against Buffalo if you're playing Buffalo because they're going to score. And not scoring inside the 4-yard line was a dagger. Even if you got the field goal there, it would have been better than nothing. So instead of it being 17-7 or a 13-7 ball game, Buffalo stopped them. Momentum switched instantly when that happens. And then showing the proof on that, Josh Allen connected with Gabriel Davis on a couple close sideline bombs that were just beautiful throws. Buffalo drove 91 yards on 10 plays in a minute 32 to score the go-ahead touchdown, take the lead. Of course, it never gave it up after that. Then the Bills got the ball in the first half, drove down the field and for a field goal. That was the series that killed the Colts. They needed points that close to the end zone, regardless of what they were. They didn't, and the Bills responded and just killed him. Killed them. I mean, Indianapolis, moved the ball up and down the field at will, basically. They did dominate the clock. And they had a chance in the final possession to win it. Indy did miss a field goal that, earlier in the game. The Colts just couldn't get the ball in the end zone, which they struggle with a lot of the season. Indy went 2 of 5, converting red zone chances into touchdowns. You have to score touchdowns against this Bills team to win it. Field goals and missed field goals just aren't going to do it. Phillip Rivers missed some open guys from time to time, threw it into double coverage when he shouldn't have a lot. But that's what you're going to get with Phillip Rivers. So they came up short. Of course, now the big question is what do you do with Phillip Rivers if you're the Colts? Right? Because, the head coach, Frank Reich, says that he wants him back for another year. Phillip Rivers, however, makes a comment on, he had a long post-game press conference, a long one to get sound from. But this is what Rivers says about his future.
It's not that easy. I don't go this route with an answer often, but I think this probably sums it up. Whatever God's will is for me and my family, if it's here in Indy playing another year, then we'll be here. And if it's not, I'll be on a sideline somewhere. I know where. I'll be on the sideline with the Ballcat, coaching the heck out of a high school football team down in South Alabama. So whatever God's will is what I want to happen, and I'll be fine with that. Obviously, if I go on and on with that answer, it'll be nothing but a bunch of emotion talking. But I think that's at the end of the day, that's clearly what will guide the decision.
I mean, he's got a big decision, but as you said, he's not too worried about it. He's going to wait and see what happens. And he wants to play, but, what he's got to do. This is what I like about big decisions. Do you bring him back, right? So at the end of the half we talked about, here's what Frank Reich, the head coach of the Colts, said about that 4th and 4 at the end of the half that, as I said, they didn't convert, and Buffalo went down and scored on afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, as I recall, the analytics were fairly strong go. I think it was at the 3, or was it at the 4?
Yeah, it was at the 4.
Okay. I'll let you know for sure tomorrow, but in my mind, I think it was a strong go. I understand. That's what I think I recall.
Well, okay. Analytics told him to go for that there. And it was the sequence of plays that kind of cost the Colts the game in the long run. I mean, that's just a big momentum switch there that killed them. But analytics said go for it. Fine. But you didn't convert it. Not even close. Right? So like I said, a lot of changes in Indianapolis coming up. But on the other side, here's what I like about Josh Allen. He had a good game. He did some good stuff. Look at what he says after the game on how they played today.
I mean, we had to be really, really composed. Obviously on 3rd down, we got to be better. Just starting off slow, we got to find a way to pick that up. At the end of the day, we got the job done. I think the key turning point of the game was that 4th and goal stop for our defense, driving down right before the half, getting a chance to double dip there. And I know we got field goals coming out of the half. We got to find a way to get the touchdown there too. But we did enough to win the game. That's all that matters.
Look at that. Josh Allen's picking apart his team, and they won, right? And Sean McDermott, the head coach of Buffalo Bills, is not wrong on who made the plays they absolutely had to in order for the Buffalo Bills to win this game.
I would say that's spot on, Chris. Just as an overall team, we didn't play our best game of the year, and that's in part because the Colts are a really good team. I mean, this is a 7th seed, but as I said all week long, 11 wins and a 7th seed is and one of those was against Green Bay, who I think is the first seed in the other conference there. So very good team, very well coached team. A lot of respect for them, and we knew it was going to be tough, and so. But yeah, our defense, I thought at the end really stood up, man. That's a tough situation. Fortunately we had the sack on offense. I thought we had momentum and chance to go up, maybe 6 or 10 at that point. But, we weren't able to, and I thought our defense stood up in a tough situation against a Hall of Fame quarterback. So it was good to see.
He's happy with his defense, and rightfully so. He should be. Absolutely. And so the Bills move on this week, and we'll get into their matchup this week here in just a few, right? So that was the first game. Second game, of course, in a NFC West rivals for the 3rd time this year. The Rams go into Seattle. Rams come out with a 30-20 win in this game, and nobody was talking about how good this Rams defense was playing going into it. I know on my Cardinals Rewind podcast, I talked about how good that Rams defense was going into that final Week 17 game and how healthy they fairly were, right? And this is the weirdest stat ever. The Rams remained perfect under Sean McVay when leading at halftime. LA got out to a 20-10 lead at halftime, and then they pulled away in the 4th quarter, of course. I mean, the Seattle offense was just going nowhere. They were held to 28 net yards on their first 5 second-half possessions. LA ran the football, kept the ball out of Seattle's hands, couldn't let them get going. Jared Goff didn't make the bad mistake. Of course, Goff did take over in the second drive of the game because John Wolford took a shot to the head by Jamal Adams. He ended up going to the hospital for precautionary reasons, but Goff went in there and he just had surgery on his thumb, 10 days ago? Some of his throws were a little wobbly, right, with a broken thumb, even though it's, in there. But he was 9 of 19, 155 yards and a touchdown. Goff wasn't efficient. Nobody expected him to be after thumb surgery. He did a great job of gutting it out. However, the loss here goes to the Seattle offense. They couldn't do anything. So John Wolford, they said today he had a stinger. Expected to be back this week for Wolford. Of course, Jared Goff, how his thumb reacts to playing in this game. The health of the offense quarterback situation for the Rams is very much in question for this week. And don't forget, Aaron Darnold went out in the second half, early on in the second half with a rib injury. And Seattle still couldn't get anything going offensively. Russell Wilson didn't know where to throw. Under pressure constantly. He missed passes all the time. There was no flow to it, no cohesiveness at all. Wilson was 11 of 27, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, of course, the pick 6 in the first half was a huge play that really turned the momentum to the Rams' side. The Seattle offense has struggled for weeks now, several weeks now, but they absolutely fell apart in this game. They got just 278 total yards, 11 first downs, and they didn't even record a first down on 7 of its 14 possessions. Russell Wilson was hit a lot, sacked 5 times. Seattle's defense allowed Cam Akers to just make it look like Seattle's defense was standing there. Of course, Akers had a big 44-yard catch and run for the Rams' first offensive touchdown. At least it led to it. Akers on that drive, he got 69 of the Rams' 75 net yards on that drive. Of course, being a rookie, what a stud, right? Akers ended up with 131 rushing yards, 28 carries with the score, added 2 receptions for 45 yards. Check out this. This is how ineffective the Rams offense was, except for Akers. Akers' 176 scrimmage yards were more than half the Rams' 333 total yards. One guy dominated it. So Seattle just fell apart here at the end of the year, especially in this playoff game. It was ugly, right? And they went through it. So, I mean, you got Jamal Adams up there talking after the game. Here's what he had to say.
We can come up with 1,000,001 excuses, but the fact of the matter, we're not going to do it. You know what I mean? Hats go off to, L.A. They did a phenomenal job. They controlled the clock, and they flipped the field on us a lot of times and made more plays than we did. It's tough to, win ball games when we're not hitting on all cylinders, all 3 phases, and the marathon continues, man. We'll be back. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, our season is cut short, but we got to learn from it and get healthy and come back next year, swinging on all cylinders.
I think we're seeing the downside of Seattle at this point, but we'll have to wait and see till next year, right? But Pete Carroll does talk about their extraordinary season.
This season has been such an extraordinary year in so many ways, and just so much around us, and just all that has to do with life. And I'm really proud of these guys for hanging tough throughout the whole process of it, being so strict and regimented, to make it through this time as healthy as we did. We've learned a lot, and they've grown a lot, I think, in all that we had to come to understand. And this football season, it was supposed to just keep going for us, and that's the way we were planning. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it done today.
Struggling a lot of times this year as they went through it, right? But Russell Wilson does comment about the offensive struggles that the Seahawks had in this game.
Good job up front, obviously. They got to me a few times, and I think that for us, we just didn't play our best game. We weren't on our stuff as much as we needed to be, and we kept battling. That's the thing about us. We kept battling to the end of the game. felt like we still had a chance. And you know, it was a tough matchup for us. We didn't play great today, so I think that was the unfortunate part about it, and the real unfortunate part is that's it. It's the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's no doubt about it there. So they know they didn't get anything going, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty dismal performance by Seattle. But Jared Goff on the other side, was he prepared to go in this game with his thumb the way it was?
It's never, what you hope for. I think John's a good friend of mine at this point, and I thought he was doing some good things out there, and took a shot there and had to come out. But like I said, I was ready to go, and I think my whole mindset through the week was to stay ready. You never know what can happen, and I've played in big games before. I've played in playoff games before, and have that experience. So I try to draw on some of that with the lack of reps, and just trust myself.
And then here's my favorite quote of the day. Sean McVay talking about Jared Goff being able to throw the football.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about him. I think it says a lot about his ability to prepare himself mentally to be ready to go. Kevin O'Connell and Liam Cohen getting him ready. I thought he did a nice job handling things. And really, I thought guys made some plays. You look at the down the field isolation where we had Kupp versus Jamal Adams. Cooper went up and got that ball for a big 44-yard gain. And then really, as the game progressed, I thought Jared settled in. We were able to kind of identify what are the things that you feel good about play-wise for us to activate, because for him to even be able to throw the football is pretty impressive. There were a couple limitations, as you guys saw, which is what led to the decision to go with John. And I was really pleased with Jared, and I think it's a real credit to him just being able to handle this week the right way.
It's just funny. I was like, oh, I can't believe he threw the football. That's amazing. So the other game, of course, on Saturday night was Tampa Bay and the Washington football team. Of course, we got news early in the day that Alex Smith was going to be inactive with his calf injury. And what a game it was by the backup Heineke, right? So Tom Brady, we got to talk about Tom Brady, though. Of course, the Buccaneers won 31-23. Tom Brady became the oldest player to throw a postseason touchdown in NFL history Saturday. Of course, he passed George Blanda, who did so in 1970, by the way. And with his 36-yard completion to Antonio Brown, of course, opening score for the Tampa Bay. He scored another one later on. Taylor Heineke, though, was the star of this game in a losing effort. Of course, he wasn't even on the team a few weeks ago, but he led an impressive and efficient touchdown drive. But then Tampa Bay was matching it. I mean, Heineke was amazing. He was diving for scores. It was great. One thing about Brady in this game was he was under duress a lot, and he was fairly effective while doing so. So he was 8 of 14 passing, 143 yards, and a 92.3 rating when Washington registered a pressure. That's, of course, by Next Gen Stats. Because we all know the way to get to Brady, and it's been the way for a long time, is to put pressure on him. He's going to make mistakes. But in this game, he didn't. Quick decision-making proved to be greater than anything Washington threw at him. They did sack Brady 3 times. Brady led the Buccaneers to this. This was all on Brady and that receiving core. Absolutely. Antonio Brown looked good. 2 passes, 49 yards. And like I said, the 1 touchdown. Antonio Brown ran the ball 1 time for 22 yards. It's amazing. So, I mean, just him with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is just an added force there, and hard to guard those receivers. Not including Rob Gronkowski. So 4 receivers you have to stop on that Tampa Bay offense. Tampa Bay's defense, though, was exposed a little bit, as usual, on Saturday night. But the offense performed well enough to get past all those, issues that the Tampa Bay defense has. If that passing game continues like that, Tampa Bay is going to be a team to deal with in this playoffs. Of course, we talked about Heineke. Just a great job. He capitalized on his opportunity. He completed 26 of 44 passes, 306 yards, touchdown, 1 interception. He got better as the game went on, which was the amazing thing. Usually backups gets worse because they start throwing stuff at him. He was down 18-7, but he didn't care. He still led good scoring drives for Washington. They pulled within 2 points late in the third quarter. I mean, that dive for the pylon, right? Yeah, he actually got injured. I read somewhere that his shoulder fell out the socket or something. But something like that. But he got injured on that play a little bit. He was composed in the pocket, and Buccaneers, defense was getting close to him. But he was hitting open targets, throwing beautiful balls that only his receivers are going to get. Great job by Heineke. Absolutely. It was a fantastic game to watch. And this kid not being on a roster, he's going to be on a roster next year. He was that good playing on Saturday night. And doesn't it make you more upsetting? I tweeted this out. It makes you upsetting as a Cardinals fan sitting there watching a guy not even on the roster 4 weeks ago, playing so well like that. And the Cardinals couldn't even find a quarterback after Kyler Murray. You know? The funny little quote here. Leonard Fournette was asked, how he thought the game went. Here's what he said.
I'm happy to be a part of this organization right now. I found out they haven't won a playoff game in so many years, and I'm happy to be a part of that. That's it. Like I tell AB every day at practice, man, just thank God for second chances. He's coming off from a sloppy one, and me too, also. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this Bucs, and happy to get the win for the Buck fans and everybody.
I mean, absolutely. For the Buccaneers, the theme is thank God for second chances, right? Of course, Brady, hey, you won the playoff game. What are you done?
Glad we won. Glad we got another week of work. And we're going to go in there and try to do a much better job this week and get ready for whoever our opponent is. It's going to be a good one. And, we're going to have to go play great football.
Yeah. No, he's not done. Of course he's not. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom effing Brady, people. Right? Of course, as I said, Heineke was the star of the show. Guy, like I said, wasn't even on a roster. Played at Old Dominion in college. Was a backup for the XFL St. Louis Battlehawks. Didn't even really play there. He's going up against Tom Brady.
A lot of people have asked me, what does it feel like going up against the GOAT, Tom Brady? And I didn't really think about that this week. Just focused on doing my job, getting completions, letting those guys do their thing. But, looking back at the game in the next couple of days, it's going to be something I'll be really proud about. Just the way everything that's happened in the past month and a half. And to go out there and do that, I'm proud of myself, and I'm happy that coaches believed in me, gave me that opportunity. So again, hopefully I can do it again next year.
Yeah, I mean, if this guy isn't on a roster next year as a backup quarterback somewhere, I mean, just the talent level and the scouting departments is ridiculous, right? I'm not saying he's going to be a starter in this league. I'm just saying he showed he can be a backup quarterback. And Heineke talks about that.
Hopefully I deserve to be in this league a little longer. Again, I've been on the other side, not playing, being in the real world, and it's not fun. It's not as fun as this. So again, I want to be in the NFL. I want to keep playing ball. It's a dream of mine, and I'm going to keep working towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he showed. He put down on paper. What do you get told when you're a player like him, when you get an opportunity? Put something good down on paper that we can on the film that we can go after and prevent, right? I mean, Ron Rivera, very thankful of him as well.
It was gutsy. It was it really was. And you know, it's one of those things that, you know, a guy like him who works hard at what he does, you know, he's created an opportunity for himself, and we'll see what happens. But I'm just very, very proud of what he did, coming out and competing the way he did and helping us to get where we are today.
Absolutely. Kid was a star in this game, made a name for himself, and, you know, they didn't come out on the winning side. This game would have been awful if Dwayne Haskins was the quarterback in there, and he did it, right? So, I mean, this Washington football team has some decisions to make coming up there, right? Is Alex Smith going to retire? Is he going to come back? Is he going to be able to play? What about, you know, the guy that local kid here that I just forgot his name that went out with his broken ankle that gave Alex Smith a chance to come back and play? A lot of questions in Washington for a team that, you know, quite frankly, getting to 7 wins was huge. Winning that division is a whole nother story because that division was so bad. But getting to that winning point and keeping the game close against Tampa Bay with a backup quarterback was fantastic and impressive. And that's what Ron Rivera's teams give you, because they are dedicated to winning and they go off of his style. It's a great team to watch. If you weren't rooting for a Washington football team, at least enjoyed watching them in these last few weeks, you were just not a football fan. It was fantastic to watch. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I appreciated everything that they did. No doubt about it. As we go. Then Sunday happened, right? And we wake up in the morning, another big matchup. I was excited about this Baltimore Ravens, Tennessee Titans matchup. Look, I don't talk about it often, but I do root for the Ravens. I have game worn jerseys. I have hats. I have more Ravens stuff that means more to me than I do Cardinals stuff as we went. And the Ravens were able to get it. Lamar Jackson was able to get the can't win a big playoff game after his third season. I know, right? 20-13 over the Tennessee Titans. And they bottled up 2,000-yard runner Derrick Henry. And it was amazing to watch. So, you know, Lamar Jackson no longer has to hear about his early postseason exits anymore. He won his first game. You know, he joins Dan Marino and Patrick Mahomes as the only players in NFL history to have a league MVP and a playoff win under their belt by the end of their age 23 season. Good company to be in there, right? Lamar Jackson was running beast yesterday. 16 times, 136 yards, and a big touchdown there right before halftime. Lamar Jackson running the football makes Baltimore harder to team. Much like I've said about the Cardinals all year, Lamar Jackson can run it. It's a threat, and it opens up that that offense for the Ravens against that defense, and it showed in this game. I tweeted out early on that Tennessee Titans were stopping the run of the Ravens, and they needed to learn to throw the football. The Ravens came to this game as one of the least throwing teams in the league. In the league, forget about playoff teams. I tweeted out, they need to start throwing the ball, and they need to start throwing the ball now. And his running allowed it to open up and allowed him to throw the football. Tennessee did do a decent job of pressuring Lamar Jackson in the passing game, but it wasn't enough, right? I mean, Marcus Peters had a nice interception late in this game to cement it. You know, and then Lamar Jackson went out there and had another big game. Then he stayed inbounds. He's making the right decisions now in his third year in the league? Lamar Jackson plays like he did yesterday, and the Ravens are a tough team to beat when he runs like that. One thing that Baltimore does need to do is faster starts. They did fall behind early in this game as well. Lamar Jackson threw, a bad throw, contested throw that was intercepted, of course. But he rebounded and had a good game. Of course, Marquise Brown, Hollywood, posted his first 100-yard game since week 1. 7 catches, 109 yards. The Baltimore offensive yesterday was something we've been waiting to see, and we finally saw it in a playoff game. What a time to bring it out. And, of course, they get revenge over Tennessee for knocking them out of the playoffs last year. And they also weren't going to lose to Derrick Henry, and they stopped him. 18 runs by Derrick Henry, 40 yards. His longest run was 8 yards, which is kind of one of my keys to the games when we previewed this game last week was make Tannehill beat you. Tannehill can beat you, but that offense needs the running game to go, and they did it. Tennessee finished with 209 yards of offense, was 4 of 12 on third downs. They lost the time of possession battle by more than 7 minutes. They punted the ball 5 times. Last year they made the conference game. This year, out in the first round wild card game of the playoffs. 2 11-5 teams battling it out. And that's what we came up with, right? Of course, in this game, the dancing on the logo things got out of hand. Of course, Marcus Peters intercepted that ball and they went and danced on the logo because the Titans did it. It's just ridiculous. But Calais Campbell, the Baltimore defense, talked about shutting down Henry to hold him to 18 carries and 40 yards of running the ball.
Man, we played good team ball. Good team ball. Everybody did their job as best they could do it. We played with heart and emotion. We knew it was going to be a tough matchup. He's a king. He's a beast. 2,000 yards. But today, he wasn't going to run the ball. He wasn't going to run the ball.
I mean, that's great. They did. Absolutely. That defense came through. And then here's a interesting comment about John Harbaugh says, not John, his brother, the head coach of the Ravens says about the Ravens.
Revolutionary, I don't think. I think everybody understands what it means. It's a little tougher to execute, because so many things conspire against us to quit, to stop, to throw our hands up, to not finish. And it's really irrespective of the outcome. It really doesn't matter about the outcome. What matters is how you handle it, how you approach it, and whether you stick to it or not, And that's what finish means. And our guys have done that. It's led to great outcomes. And hopefully that's something that they'll take with them for the rest of their lives and teach their kids about, And I hope people out there, take it and give it some meaning, in their own families. But that's what it's about. It's about sticking to it, not giving up, and to continue to fight for what's important for yourself and for your family and for your team and all those other things.
I hope the Arizona Cardinals are listening to this one because this is the point that Cardinals are at in their season is they need to learn how to finish in a football game. Here's one thing that Harbaugh really bothered me that he did say, this comment right here.
I don't like the comparison, but I tell you, that may be that right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's the number 1 best win. All right. Now in perspective, it's gonna be a top 5 for sure. But right now, for me, this is the best win ever. And not just because of what was at stake, but because of the guys and what it meant to our team and to our guys, what it meant to all of our guys. This may be the best one I've ever been associated with. Defensive effort, like you said, it was discipline. It was eyes on your luggage. It was finishing. It was running to the ball. It was tackling. Up front, our defensive line did a phenomenal job against their very good offensive line. So we got them stopped a lot of times before he got started. All those things came into play.
Yeah, just when you start saying it's your best game that you've played, obviously he's talking about his time there. There's been a lot of big games that they've been a part of, and he said top 5, but he's absolutely right. This was getting the monkey off their back into this playoff run, especially the season that they had this year. It was a great win by Baltimore, and going into that side, and no doubt about it. And keep in mind the Ravens struggled all year, and Humphreys on the Ravens talked about the Ravens' lowest point.
It honestly was unique. I think, when the Corona hit, and even before that, we lost some games. The craziest thing that I reflected on, the last couple of days and maybe within a week was there was really no panic. We didn't all of a sudden start, hey, we need to practice harder. We need to do this. Coach Harbaugh wasn't all out of a funk. Everybody just seemed like we just kept staying the course. And it's unique because usually that doesn't happen when you start losing and the corona. It seems like usually things go into a panic. And
I mean, he's not wrong there. They struggled beginning part of the season. They all got hit with that corona really bad. They got hit with the virus really bad. Had to move some games around. Had some weird playing, and then that game that was supposed to be played on Thanksgiving night that was moved. That was the turning point. Lamar Jackson came back from having the COVID, came back and started playing well. It's like this team just woke up out of there, and he's absolutely right. Did a good job on the finish of that season, as they went through it. So, on the other side, you got Tennessee. Derrick Henry talks about being shut down.
Yeah, they were the better team today. They had a plan, they executed it. And, they played good on defense. Got the best of us today. Credit goes to, their defense and, their team. They're the better team today. And,
no doubt about it. They were the better team. And then how about the defense of the Ravens?
Yeah, they were the better team today. They had a plan, they executed it. And, they played good on defense. Got the best of us today. Credit goes to, their defense and their team. They're the better team today, and I need to play better. We didn't play better. We didn't play good enough to win today, and Baltimore just a better team.
There was a decision there in the fourth quarter. It was 4th and 2, and Mike Vrabel decided to punt the football instead of going for it, and here's what he had to say after the game.
Decision to punt on 4th and 2 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Can you kind of walk us through your thought process on that?
No, just decided to punt. Thought we were playing well defensively. Thought we would get a punt inside the 10 and be able to play the field position game. Had some time there that I felt like we could, and we held them to a field goal. It just we were playing against a kicker there that kicks them from the 40. It's becomes a field position battle, and I thought that we'd get a stop and pin them inside the 10. And the way we were playing defensively, I was really proud of those guys. That obviously Lamar had a fantastic day, but I thought we were dialed in. I thought enjoyed watching those guys play defense.
Well, at least he enjoyed watching the Ravens play defense against his team, right? So the end of the season, for the Tennessee Titans, who were 11-5 going into this game and everything. Second game of Sunday, of course, Chicago Bears, New Orleans Saints. Wrong Saints. I declared last week that this was going to be the biggest blowout game of the weekend. The score was 21-9. Saints beat the Bears, and it turned into a lopsided affair and was just ferocious to watch, especially in the second half. But man, Matt Nagy's throw to that receiver in the end zone that he dropped was such a beautiful throw by Mitchell Trubisky's throw. The play call was excellent by Matt Nagy, and then Mitchell Trubisky just threw a beautiful ball, and receiver just dropped it. Ugh. It was so bad. But the Saints defense, back to its form it was earlier in the season. They smothered the offense of the Bears. David Montgomery couldn't go anywhere, and he's had some good few weeks here, these last few weeks. Mitchell Trubisky was pressured a lot, and basically the secondary of the Saints was suffocating on those receivers for him as well. The Saints gave up just 140 total yards of offense before the garbage time. Of course, then they got some more yards in that garbage time. The Bears did go down and score on a 99-yard scoring drive at the very end of the game. It didn't matter, of course, but Saints defense dominated up until that point. But the Bears offense is awful, and that Bears defense was good. especially in the second half. I did say in the first half Bears had some chances to be in this game. You know, it was Javon Wims that missed dropped the perfectly deep shot in the end zone from Trubisky. Would have been a 40-yard touchdown. That play was beautiful. Even the Saints were kind of applauding it when he threw that ball and went there. I even looked away from the television. He was so wide open, and the ball was thrown so perfectly that I thought he caught it. When I looked back up, I was like, why are they re-snapping the ball from the same place? And they showed the replay. It was like, ooh, he dropped it. After that, it was just downhill for the Bears, you know. On fourth down, when Mitchell Trubisky runs the ball on fourth down a little bit later in this game, and he just runs out of bounds a yard or two short, it's the playoffs, man. Lay out, go for it. Try to lay out, put your shoulder down and hit the guy if you're going to run the ball. It's playoffs, man. You got a fourth down, you got to go. You know, of course, Anthony Miller, you know, Anthony Miller got ejected, of course, going after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He was ejected in the third quarter. No help for the Bears defense at that point. Here's the problem, is the Bears, so I said Matt Nagy was safe going into this game because he got the Bears to playoffs. They started looking better in the last few weeks of the NFL season, even though they did back in the playoffs. But then the Bears in this game went back, and it was a worse total effort by this Matt Nagy squad in the playoff game. Matt Nagy, I think, is safe because he got to the playoffs, but he needs to go. He needs to be fired. Dismal performance in the playoffs. Went back to the original games. Just awful. They need a culture change in Chicago. But being that being said, I think he's going to stay. The Saints were finally fully loaded on offense. Everybody was playing, right? Michael Thomas returned from the injured reserve. Man, was he on fire. He looked rested. 5 for 73 yards, touchdown. It was just a great all-around game by that Saints offense in their first one back. It was a fantastic game to watch. In terms of the Saints, the Bears just made it atrocious. Drew Brees was 28 for 39, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns. So here's a long clip. I'm going to play this. But Matt Nagy being frustrated with Miller's ejection. It's kind of long, but I'm going to play it. I might stop it halfway through because he says some things in here. Y'all know that I'm not the biggest Matt Nagy fan. And partly the reason why is here.
We spent some time now on Wednesday morning as a team. We spent time literally showing and explaining a particular player's actions in games and teaching it. And you know, that's taken 10 or 15 minutes out of your day, which is precious, right? And so when you do that, I think it's a valuable lesson for our guys is we already knew going into this thing about some of that, right? What are we talking about? Every action has a reaction. And so I think it's a valuable learn, especially when we're low with numbers at the wide receiver position and the value of that zebra position for us. And so, again, it's something where our guys, we all got to understand we got to be stronger and we can't have that happen. And we got to understand that. And you're right. That's 2 times that happened and we just can't have it.
Name another team where this has happened twice. Go ahead. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it. It doesn't. It rarely happens once, let alone twice. It goes to the control that the coach has. They've even addressed it, and it still happens. It's not good. Matt Nagy does not have that control of that team. This is my favorite quote from him. Hey, head coach Matt Nagy, you go out there and you lose bad. You look awful. Complete annihilation by the Saints. You look like you weren't even out there. What do you think about this? What do you have to do now?
Making the playoffs is great, but what we did today has to be a lot better, and so how do we do that? Every year is always going to be a little bit different. That's just a simple fact. Matter of fact, Jason, I just told the guys in the locker room that for us to get better and to be the team that we need to be, that's something that we'll do here in the offseason, is make sure that wherever there's a weakness, we make it a strength. And that's going to take everybody. So today wasn't good enough. And you look at a team like the Saints that has been there, done that on the coaching side, player wise. I think that's a start for us to realize, hey, if you want to go ahead and do damage in the playoffs, you can see situationally, discipline wise, all that kind of stuff, how we got to be better.
He said it himself. They're going to evaluate where they're weak at. Well, let's start with the head coaching position if we're the Bears. That's what I would do. Trubisky was asked if he wants to be back with the Bears next year. Here's what he said.
Mitch, do you want to be back here next year?
Yeah, I think I could definitely see myself back here next year. Obviously, a lot of that's out of my control, but it feels like home, and it feels like we have unfinished business. And right now, I'm really just bummed about how the season being over and how the game went. So a lot of emotions going on right now, but I could see that, but we'll see. There's a lot of things that got to happen and a lot of decisions that got to be made, and it's out of my control, but I could see that.
Does that sound not enthusiastic to come back to that offense? Yikes, right? Of course, you've got the New Orleans side of it here. They get to move on. They're going to face the Bucs this week. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But Drew Brees talks about offense finally getting healthy.
It was great. It was great to get him in the end zone too. Hopefully we broke the seal, and there's a lot more that came from. But, listen, we got some work to do, I think still just kind of first time, really that we're getting everybody together again. Hopefully we get Traquan Smith back this week as well. And, there's just so much timing and rhythm that goes into the passing game, and so many little nuances and things that, when you're playing a lot, it becomes automatic. And that's when, you're really playing at the level that, man, we've been at, in many cases around here.
There's no doubt about it. Sean Payton talks about the defense, how good the defense was for the Saints in this game.
Thought we tackled well in space. I thought our third down numbers were good. And ultimately, I thought, we forced them to become one-dimensional. And when you're able to do that, you're going to win a lot of games.
And then also how the offense overcame the slow start.
As a coach, you're always concerned. You're wanting to operate efficiently, and but look, I think it's really focused on the things that you can tweak. We threw the ball a little bit more on first down. It's a good defense, good front, and we did the things we needed to do. So again, good win.
Yeah, so Saints move on to the next round of the playoffs. Of course, the Bears go home. Nobody's really shocked by that, right? Most lopsided game of the weekend, which I said last week it was going to be. Then last night, the game without head coach Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers came back and made it a game at the end, sort of. Score-wise. They never, really got out of it. But Cleveland Brown just dominated this game last night. Shocker. I don't think even Browns fans were pretty surprised at what happened as we went through it, right? Baker Mayfield threw for 3 touchdowns. Steelers have issues, right, going forward. So they got out to a, 28-0 lead. In the first quarter, second quarter there. The Steelers did flirt with the comeback, and the Browns flirted with disaster. But Pittsburgh never drew closer than 12 points after the opening surge. It was a win. The thing that I don't get is the Pittsburgh going for 2 as early as they did. I know they were trying to make up points, but not getting them. They would have been within closer if they just would have kicked the extra points going into it. They would have made it a 10 or 9-point ball game. at the end there instead of the 11 as they're trying to catch points there. Basically, you add 3 to the 37. You know, there would have been 1 score instead of 2 scores if they would have just go. Of course, the game began with a bad snap over Ben Roethlisberger's head. It found its way in the end zone, and Carl Joseph from the Browns got it. Touchdown. What a way to start for the Browns. First play from scrimmage. Amazing 7-0 start for them. Just downhill. The Steelers never had anything after that. Reminds you of that Super Bowl where the Broncos, was it the Broncos? Where the first snap went out by Peyton Manning's head, and then they just got blown after that. Basically, this was a horror show for the Steelers. You know, Pittsburgh started the season 11-0. Fell apart. They lost 5 of their last 6 games. Yikes. Defense played like awful on Sunday night. Roethlisberger, 4 interceptions. He did get 4 touchdowns, but yikes, man. Where was the offensive team that the Steelers were? Where'd it go? Roethlisberger did have, because of all the garbage time, right, being so far down, NFL record 47 completions, 500 yards passing. But he had 4 interceptions, which got him into that big hole there. 68 passing attempts yesterday. Now, granted, they were down by a lot. They had to throw up, but that's the team that they went. Mayfield's 40-yard touchdown to Chubb in the fourth quarter was a monumental because it put that Pittsburgh comeback at bay when they did that. This was after, and we talked about it earlier in that other game where Mike Tomlin, they had decided to punt the ball and they opened the fourth quarter. It was like 4th and 1. They decided to punt it. Cleveland got the ball 6 plays later. Chubb scores there. And scored a touchdown on that. It's a big momentum turn. I would have gone for it on that 4th down if I was Mike Tomlin, but I'm not. So there you go. Fantastic dominating effort by the Browns that, quite frankly, I didn't see coming. The Steelers have a lot of things to look forward to in this offseason. A lot of decisions. They keep Ben Roethlisberger looks old and slow. That team doesn't look very good on the offensive side. Right? So, so Cleveland gets their first playoff win in 1,000 years, it feels like. Baker Mayfield, a lot of doubters on this Cleveland team. I'm one of them. But there are a lot of doubters on this Cleveland team. And Baker Mayfield, they looked so good yesterday. Mayfield talks about the doubters.
Before the game, you posted Browns is the Browns. Can you just talk about what impact did that have on you guys, that Juju kind of disrespected you guys and said you were the same old Browns?
I mean, it wouldn't about that specifically. Yeah, it's the same quote, but we believe in the people in this room no matter what's going on. As soon as the COVID news came out that we were missing some key guys, obviously starting with our head coach, we knew that everybody was counting us out, and we knew what mentality we were going to have. And it's just to cut it loose and go out there and give it everything we had. But there was no added pressure. There was no extra anything. It was just for us to go out and do our job because no one believed in us besides us.
He's not wrong. Nobody did. And by the way, I would have picked him losing in this game, even if Stefanski, the head coach, was there. That wasn't a main reason I chose against them. Pittsburgh resting their starters. And it goes back to the age-old thing where Pittsburgh could have kept Cleveland out of the playoffs last week by winning that game and playing some starters. They decided to rest everybody, and they end up losing and have to play Cleveland again in the first round. And Cleveland had the momentum. They won that final game. Pittsburgh didn't. The starters rested. So that age-old question is, do you rest guys in those situations? And time again, it happens where no. The answer is no, you don't rest them. It gets ugly. Pittsburgh defense was just god-awful all game.
Is what we're right. We didn't stop the run early on. we didn't execute at a high level, you know. And then the quick passing really got the best of us, and yards after catch. You know, our tackling was poor, and you know we didn't give up field goals. You know, even when we did turn the ball over, and you know we still got a chance to fight, but you know it all was terrible tonight.
He started. My favorite part of that, that of course was Haywood on the Pittsburgh defense. He starts naming the individual things that went wrong, and at the very end, he's like, "Look, it all just went wrong." You know, it was just amazing. So Roethlisberger talking about it, right? Do the Steelers bring back Roethlisberger? He looks old. He looks beat up. Roethlisberger's asked that question coming back.
Yeah, Ben, I know this is all still fresh to you, and as people mentioned, you will have a decision to make at some point here. How do you feel that'll play out? Will it just be your family that you talk to? Will you talk to guys like Marquise, the Steeler organization, or is this all between you and your family?
Well, it's going to start between me and God. A lot of praying, and then a lot of talk with my family, discussions, decisions, and. I still have a year left on my contract. I hope the Steelers want me back if that's the way we go. And there'll be a lot of discussions, but now's not the time for that.
Well, he's right on that. So many questions on this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Has Mike Tomlin Moore's welcome out there as well? He's been there so long and things like that. Is the team zoning him out? The changes need to be made on the Steelers team. I made that comment after that COVID game, as what we call it, against Baltimore. I said Pittsburgh's in trouble. Their offense is stagnant. Their defense is getting worse with all the injuries that they got, with Bud Dupree going out and then a couple other big names after that. I just saw this team starting to crumble, and they absolutely did crumble. Changes need to be made. That schedule was very favorable to begin the season, and they took advantage of it early in the season. But as the schedule got less favorable, they just fell apart. Roethlisberger talks about this, his 4 turnovers right here.
This was a rocky finish the last 6-7 weeks. What was the difference between what we saw over this last stretch versus what we saw earlier in the season?
We just didn't win. I don't have any magical answers. It just, we didn't put it together. Like I said tonight, the glaring issue is we turned the ball over. We turned the ball over a ton, and that just can't happen.
My other thing is Mike Tomlin, the coach of Pittsburgh, talks about giving up the touchdown on the first play and how it changed the game for them. First play of the game goes awfully wrong. Listen to what Mike Tomlin has to say.
I wasn't worried about them being focused and trying to come back, but in terms of our urgency and things, but it does change the climate of the game in terms of opportunities and opportunities for splash and the nature in which they play and the nature in which we have to play. You lose balance. You miss opportunities for splash on the other side because they hide the ball, et cetera. It doesn't bode well when you spot people points, and particularly the way we did it tonight. It made the journey a difficult one.
I don't necessarily agree with that because it was the first play of the game. Yeah, you're going to be negative, but your focus needs to be there. But they're not going to hide the football and do all that being up only 7. I don't like those comments by Mike Tomlin, but what do I know, right? And then he talks about Mike Tomlin talks about they have a lot of veterans they have to make decisions on. This Steelers team might not be coming back to the exact team it is now.
When you mention assessing the cumulative, and Ben Roethlisberger and Marquise Pouncey were the last 2 that came off the field sitting together, when do you start having the conversation with Ben about his future and where he goes from here?
I hadn't thought about that, to be honest with you. We've been in this play mode and this compete mode, and so those discussions and decisions regarding personnel and wrapping the ball around the season and getting an eye toward what the future looks like, those things will begin happening in the upcoming days and weeks.
Yeah, good luck with those decisions, Pittsburgh, because they need to be made. It was not a good performance by you guys at all to end the season. we sit here as Cardinals fans and complain about their end of the season, how bad it was. It wasn't even close to being as bad as the Pittsburgh Steelers season, right? But at least they did make the playoffs, so it takes a little bit of sting out of it, but wow, right? So this weekend, divisional rounds here, some great matchups. Rams have to go to Green Bay to play the Packers. That's going to be Saturday at 2 o'clock Phoenix time. The Ravens play the Bill. This is the most exciting game of the weekend here, in my opinion. 11-5 Ravens against the 13-3 Bills. I'll have my pick on Wednesday night. I think the Bills are going to pull this one out, but the Ravens play the way they did on Saturday. I'm thinking about maybe picking the Ravens this weekend. So that'll be at 6 o'clock here on Saturday night coming up. Then on Sunday, 1 o'clock, you have Browns at the Chiefs. This is going to be the biggest blowout game of the weekend, I think. I'm going to look into some stuff. I just don't think the Browns are going to be able to keep up that offensive performance. And the hesitation that I have, though, is Chiefs after that bye week. What team is going to come out? Fascinating game to pick on that one, so we'll have to see. Initial reaction, though, biggest blowout of the weekend, but I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen. Then 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, Buccaneers at the Saints. Division rematch, third time this year. Saints have had the Buccaneers numbers. To beat a team a third time is hard to do. But, of course, Drew Brees talking, rumors are he's retiring after this year. Big game for him, but that Saints defense needs to play as well as they did to play against the Buccaneers this weekend to dominate that game. I did look on with Doug Peterson. We announced that, obviously, when that broke earlier on there. And I'm seeing the number one team people are saying he needs to go to is the Jets. So we'll obviously have to look and see, because I think Doug Peterson becomes the number one head coach choice for a lot of teams now that he's available. So this is going to hold up the hiring process for these teams in there, because this is one guy that's proven he can win, as bad as it went this year for the Eagles, but he needs to see. So this is going to upend the coaching search for some of these teams to try to get him in there. And we'll have to see what happens with Doug Peterson. And if I was a team looking for, if I was a team looking for a head coach, he would be a call I would make. He's a good head coach. Whatever happened this year, we'll have to see how it goes, right? So, a lot of football talk. Appreciate everybody. When I know there was a break here at the beginning there for a couple of minutes, so I had to take care of something. But I'll edit that out of the podcast version of this and get that put out here. Appreciate everybody tuning in here. Of course, I'm at SMAC500, SMAC500, at the Main Event Pod, where we put the show notes up and post all the show stuff. Of course, Wednesday night, I'll be on 1580 The Fanatic, like always, from 6 to 8 p.m. for the Main Event Radio Show. And we'll see about getting the Friday podcast back up here to preview what's going on this weekend. Of course, tonight, college football championship game. We have Alabama. Me and Mikkel and the All Access crew have Alabama winning tonight. Big playoff matches up this weekend. So everybody, thanks for watching. If you're watching on Facebook Live or Twitter. If not, thanks for listening on the podcast forums. We'll see you all next time.